And welcome back to the Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union Hotline. We have on the line with us right now head football coach of the Waller Bulldogs. Bulldogs with a rough Friday night, coming up short, 53-14. First of all, Coach, good morning, and give us a recap, sir.
Good morning. Yes, sir. We came up short last night. I was still proud of some of the things that I saw and saw some things that we needed to fix. I think we came out very poorly in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, we kind of woke up, and I think we started playing with them, and it was 26-14 going into half. They lined up to try to kick a field goal. We blocked it. We were one block. We ran it back about 60 yards. But we needed another 10 or 15, and we were about one block just away from setting it down to a one-score game at halftime. But then I think, we were playing a playoff team, 5-0, that we have not had a chance to play a team this year that is a likely playoff team. And they did what playoff teams did. They cranked it up on us in the third quarter, and they got after us, and we weren't able to respond in the third quarter the way we were the second quarter. But we walk away from the week with a lot of negatives and things that we got to fix, but a lot of positives too. Our sub-varsities went 3-0 Thursday night. Both freshman teams won. Our JV team won. JV team kind of turned it around last year. We got beat 52-7, and this year won 32-14. So, the first quarter, the third quarter were not good for us, but there were a lot of things that happened that I'm proud of the kids for.
Yes, sir. Well, one thing, as you mentioned, you learn a lot about the integrity of your ball players and the young men that you're developing, and some kinks that you have to iron out. What is the most important thing that you take away from this? Because I'm one to think that you learn a lot more in the adversities of defeat than you do from the glories of wins and victories.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Prince, just to be real blunt about it, I mean, there's a lot of life lessons that get learned on a football field, and one of those lessons is learning how to respond when things are not going good. And we have some opportunities from last night that we got to take from it and learn from it. And as tough as the circumstances may be, we can never waver in our self-confidence and in the foundation of our core values. And then we certainly can't respond in a way to put ourselves in a negative position. And so there were some of those opportunities that we have to look at and learn from last night. But, our kids are the same kids that were 2-1 a week ago, and we love those kids then. We love those kids now. And, I always say we don't have bad kids. We have kids sometimes that make bad decisions, and we made a couple last night, but we're going to fix those things, and we're going to try to fix the football mistakes that we made and be ready for a Magnolia group.
Yes, sir.
Stop.
Yes, sir. It doesn't stop. They say the hits continue to keep on coming. And one thing about it, Coach, and you and I can both attest to this, when you got that young testosterone flowing and things are not going the way you think they should be going, tempers can get a little flared, and sometimes the judgment can be a little cloudy. But as you say, you make those teachable and coachable moments, and hopefully you learn and turn the page and move forward.
Absolutely. I think we had a little blow up last night with one kiddo, and I said, I have never seen that, a blow up on the sidelines. Kind of looked at him, and I said, we see that in the NFL, don't we? We see it in college, and kids and coaches get into competitive situations. Intensity is high, and sometimes we make mistakes, and so it's nothing new to the game. But it is something that we got to work on and continue to do better. And we're going to go back to the drawing board. We'll go back as a coaching staff and work our tails off to try to put the kids in a better position to succeed. I was really pleased. Of course, I haven't seen the end of game stat. I know we ended up at halftime, Alex Bars at 14 carries for 76 yards. We kind of had a hunch that he was going to be a good player. And, man, he ran the ball really, really, really well the first half. So he was certainly a bright spot. At over 150 yards rushing as a team at halftime, we just didn't sustain that in the third quarter. We had a playoff team crank it up, and we didn't match that. We have got to match their intensity, their production, when we come out for a second half when we're in position to be score away from being in the game.
Yes, sir. Well, you made mention you on what we call Magnolia's Road. You had Magnolia West on Friday, and you have Magnolia coming up. Not that there's much disparity, even though the records are not quite the same, but playoff caliber program as well. And what will you see as some of the keys for the Bulldogs to rebound in this battle of the Bulldogs coming up?
Well, I think we face the biggest challenge that we've faced yet in that offense that Mag West has. And in some ways, the script will be flipped a little bit. Defensively, I think, is the strength of the Magnolia team. There were a lot of things that we saw in Magnolia West that is going to be as good in their offense. Is going to be as good as anybody we play all year long. And so we've got to take the bumps and bruises from that game and make adjustments and learn and grow and get back out on that field. We saw a speed of the game that we haven't seen yet. We've got to continue to work on our kids in position at practice as best we can to see the speed of the game that we're going to get on Friday night. So I think those are going to be big keys, just to getting our kids a little more equipped to play and match the speed of the game that we saw in Magnolia West. We'll see a similar speed against Magnolia. And then while I don't know that Magnolia is quite as explosive offensively, they're still very, very good offensively. And then defensively, I think it gets cranked up a little bit on us, and we got to be able to manage that. And I sound like a broken record, but we have got to be able to control that line of scrimmage at the front next week against Magnolia, and quite frankly, do what we did in the first half against West. We put up 150 yards rushing in a half. I'll take that for two halves and walk away with 300 yards and be pleased. We were able to do it one half. We weren't able to do it the second half.
Well, you talking about a 300-yard rushing night. Not only would you be pleased, so you take that 9 times out of 10 times every time, right, Coach? Because it does two things. You're moving the ball and you're eating up clock, which more than likely would be favorable in the long run. Now, you just made a mention, Coach, and I'm wondering how, but before I make that mention, Magnolia West, not only are they always an explosive side of the team when it comes to offense, they always use and add a deceptive wrinkle. They always want to do, I'm calling them trick play, but an out-the-box play or two each game. They're like, I didn't see that one coming. And it almost kind of compounds the fact on how you have to prepare for a program such as that. But how do you match that speed and get prepared for that speed when you're preparing for teams like that at Magnolia?
I think just two thoughts on that. Number one, you're right. The good teams are going to have wrinkles for you that you haven't seen yet. And so, as bad as it may sound, you have to go a little bit into survival mode and survive and get through, because if you can hang on for those few little plays that they have that are special, they eventually are going to fall back into their base offense and the things that you've been seeing them all run all year. So we have to kind of avoid, we know we're going to get hit a little bit, and we have to avoid the damage that's done on those shots that they throw at you. The second thing, I think, Mr. Prince, about, how do you prepare to match up to a playoff team? How do you prepare to play at the speed that they're playing? For me, opinion-wise, that's really simple. It's learning and knowing how to practice. And if you are have an intent of practicing just like you want to play on Friday nights, when you do good on good work, which we try to do quite a bit of good on good work, where what I mean by good on good is we're going to work our one offense against our one defense, and that needs to be as close to a game type situation as we can possibly get. Then that gets those kids in the habit of moving fast, playing fast, and that's the best way that we can try to prepare for game speed Friday night. There's no way you can put the emotion in it and the extra little oomph that happens on Friday night. You can't get that on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. But anything that we can do to replicate the practices to make it feel like it's game-like with our effort, our intensity, our focus, is the only chance we have, in my opinion, to prepare for speed of the game on Friday night.
Yes, sir. And you know, in the era that we're in right now, and I say we have student athletes, and I'm not just talking about wow, I'm just talking about across the board. We have student athletes that are much bigger, much faster, but a lot more sensitive as well. And it's almost hard to push and drive the way maybe you and I were brought up in a system where I had an old coach. He said, "Man, you're not hurt." He said, "Are you injured or you're hurt?" You know, he said, "There's a difference between the two." And he said, "Well, I don't see no bones sticking out. You're not hurt. You're injured. So you need to get back in there." You know, you can't do that these days. How do you overcome those approaches that you were used to being? And I know they have coaches development all the time, but it's kind of hard to throw some of those things that you know they got you there out the window, isn't it?
It is, without a doubt, and I don't think we have to throw them out the windows. I think probably one of the biggest changes in coaching over the 20-something years that I've been coaching is that we have to work harder now, more than ever, at helping kids understand why we're doing what we're doing. So when we talk about what you're saying of are you hurt or are you injured, and is this something you can push through, they have to understand, you know, the intent behind that and what we mean with what we're saying. You know, I think you and I grew up and we said it, or coaches said it. We didn't really even know what they were talking about.
You're right about this.
And we just knew that coach wanted me back out there, and I was hurting,
Right.
but I could go, and I'm gonna go play a little bit. And I think we have to spend more time educating kids today. They want to know a whole lot more about the whys, and so we have a licensed athletic trainer. I try to work really hard with myself and our coaching staff. But let's not overstep our boundaries here. You know, we're going to let the trainer do the training, and we're going to do the coaching. But part of that education philosophy, you know, we're trying to build our culture around an acronym of diet. And so the diet is discipline, intensity, expectations, and then the T is toughness. There's two phases of that toughness. I don't know that we struggled with the physical toughness last night, but at times I think we struggled with the mental toughness of something bad happening and getting down on ourselves or being a little fearful that the thing might be headed down a bad road for us. So I think you teach that toughness, Mr. Prince, and I don't think we throw up our hands and say, "Hey, times have changed, kids have changed." No, I think you and I would probably have to say that our parents watched us grow up as young kids, and what they say, Mr. Prince, oh man, these kids are different. It's a different.
Yeah, they did. Look, and we're saying it right now. We're echoing the same things, and to a degree, they're right, but it's different. Not necessarily in a way of negative change, but positive change. It's about adjusting, as you led to earlier, to where we are right now compared to where we come from and where we're trying to head.
No doubt, no doubt. But I'll say this as a follow-up on that: kids then, kids now, and I have a hunch that kids in 50 years from now will need structure and they'll need love. And hopefully, someone would look at our program and say they're providing structure for kids and they're loving kids. And if we do that, man, we're gonna get this thing going the direction we want it.
Yes, sir, no doubt, and I do know, and as you say, the discipline, the intensity, the expectations, and the toughness, the diet is a well-designed diet, and I think we're going to shed some pounds and add the muscle that we need to stay fit, fit and trim and ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Well, look, Coach, we know that it was a rough week, but if you could give us our Bulldog offense and defensive player of the week and our Bulldog pride of the week, the one who was the unsung hero and toughed it out through the tough times.
Well, I think the offense player, I kind of already spilled the beans a little bit on that. Alex Bars is a sophomore, and we're asking a lot of sophomores. You know, we've talked a lot about speed of the game and so forth. We're asking a lot of sophomores to step up, play the speed of the game, and Alex is one that did that last night. I'd really like to see his entire stat line to be able to brag on him and love on him, but what a great night he had running the football. Some of the coaches have said that he runs angry, and it's kind of a good trait for a back. He's a very physical runner, but that also has some explosiveness to him. So he played great. I was really pleased with him. I know you asked for an offensive player of the game, but we've got some kiddos that I can't elaborate on things, but with maybe some family medical illnesses that are struggling through. And I thought our center, Jaden Stevens, really came in last night and battled and fought, and he's got some things that personally may be going on that he had to kind of put aside and try to come in and fight for his team, and I was really proud of him for doing that. Defensively, I look, and we've got some things to correct and fix and work on. But defensively, I really thought that Garrett Kern and Caleb Noriega, I'm going to have to go with kind of co-defensive guys of the week a little bit. Those two guys played hard and fought throughout the course of the game. We got to trigger better on some things with Caleb in the RPO game, and we got to get Garrett fitting the run maybe a little bit quicker on some of the things. But I think those two kids as seniors stood in and fought, and they just off the blind eye without reviewing the film and looking at stats would probably get the nod there. I think the guy that you talk about, that heart, courage, or bulldog, guy that's continuing to fight and do everything that we ask of him, that has to be Jairo Garcia. And we're down a couple offensive linemen, and he has stepped over and played just about every snap last night at the offensive line, and we've got to get him back more involved defensively at defensive tackle. He's our best defensive lineman, but he played with great heart last night. They had a really exceptional defensive lineman, and I saw a few snaps where he just really got after that guy. So he's certainly a guy that stands out for me as a heart award, if you would.
Okay, very good. But I was going to ask, I know it's a whole different era nowadays. Sometimes you had guys that go both ways. We don't have many guys doing that these days now, though, do we?
We're trying to get away from that. Our opponents, if you just think about it, and, if you spend half the time doing something and another half doing it, and somebody else is doing a skill twice as much as you, then you're going to fall behind. And so we try to work away from it a little bit. We've got some guys that we kind of partially two-way train them, mostly just in the event of injuries that they could fill in for someone. And honestly, we started at it more this year. We had so many kids out for COVID that we kind of said, you know what, we're going to prepare a lot more kids to be ready to go both sides of the ball. I think you knew our stories about our offensive line, where we looked up and had just about seemed like half of our offensive line that was home with COVID. So, but Jairo is one of those kids that has trained both ways, and he has played both ways, but right now he'd be the only one on our team.
Okay, well, very good. Bulldogs come up short, but they'll get ready to lock and load on next Friday as they'll take on the Magnolia Bulldogs. Coach, we appreciate you as always for joining in with us, even after a tough loss. I want to give you time now to have some closing thoughts, and the floor is now yours, sir.
Absolutely. Now that, and I'm sorry, it's a broken record. I'm proud of our kids. There are things that, just like we talk about sometimes when kids do bad things, we talk about the kids not bad. The kids just made some bad decisions. And so I think last night, we're not a bad football team. I don't think we have bad football players. I just think we responded in some situations, and we didn't match some intensity when they cranked some things up in the third quarter. And all of those are things that we can fix. The kid that somebody calls bad that makes a bad decision, we can fix that approach to making decisions, and we can help him start making good decisions. And so that's our approach with these kids. They're the same kids that are 2-1. We love them just as much, if not more, than we did before. And so we've got to go back and work on the football things and correct some of those things. But again, I kind of repeating what I said earlier, it was such an emotional up and down week. We came in from a high of going 3-0, and freshman squad doing so good, and the JV squad doing so good with our young kids, believing that we're laying a foundation for the future. And then we wanted to come in and be a little bit better position competing against them and trying to get in the fourth quarter and put them in a situation where they were uncomfortable, and it just didn't happen. So it was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, but still love our kids and see so much potential in this team this year. We can't. I talked to our kids at length after that game. When they post the district standings, there won't be 53 points in there in any column. It was one loss, and we can't let it affect any of our future games. And because if you do a tough loss like that, sometimes it'll wear on you mentally. We've got to understand that that's one loss that goes in the column. We got to go right back to work and try to go for the next one.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Well, Coach, once again, we thank you for joining in with us. He is Gene Johnson, head football coach of the Waller Bulldogs. They'll make preparations for next week against the Magnolia Bulldogs. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union Hotline. We're going to pause for the calls, and we'll return with more of today's episode. Thank you very much, Coach.